Imagine living in a place where the heat is so intense that the ground feels like it's melting beneath your feet, where rain might not fall for years and sand stretches as far as the eye can see. Now imagine that even in this harsh landscape, there are people who call it home. They are the Bedouins, desert nomads who have survived for centuries in one of the most extreme environments on Earth. The Bedouins live in regions where daytime temperatures easily soar past 50 degrees Celsius, 122 degrees Fahrenheit, and plunge below 10 degrees Celsius, 50 degrees Fahrenheit, at night. They inhabit the vast arid deserts of the world, such as the Sahara, the Arabian Desert, the Negev, and parts of the Syrian and Jordanian deserts. Some groups still live in the driest areas on Earth, where rain hasn't fallen in years and the wind constantly shapes massive, moving dunes. In this environment, where life seems impossible, the Bedouins built their story, a people who learned to turn scarcity into wisdom and solitude into strength. The word Bedouin comes from the Arabic Badawi, meaning desert dweller. They are traditionally nomadic, moving with their families, herds, and tents as the seasons change and resources run out. While the modern world settles in cities, they remain on the move, following ancient caravan routes, as if the desert itself were a living compass guiding their way. The environment they inhabit is among the harshest on the planet. During the day, the sun is relentless, the dry air burns the skin, and every sip of water is precious. At night, the heat vanishes, replaced by a chilling cold that forces the Bedouins to wrap themselves in thick blankets for warmth. With no permanent rivers or lush vegetation, survival depends entirely on ancestral knowledge passed down through generations, knowing where to find water, how to track an oasis, and how to read the signs of the wind and the stars. Amid the endless sand, small pockets of life emerge, the oases. Here, Bedouin communities grow dates, figs, barley, and small vegetable gardens. These places are the beating heart of the desert, rest stops for travelers, hubs for trade, and centers for sharing news. Each oasis is both a symbol of hope and a fragile line between survival and disappearance. To the Bedouins, the desert is not an enemy, but a teacher. They have learned to respect its power and adapt to its rhythms. During sandstorms, they cover their faces with long robes and seek shelter among the dunes, waiting for the wind to pass. In the scorching midday heat, they rest in the scarce shade of their tents and travel only at dusk or by night when the stars light the way. A Bedouin's day begins before sunrise. The cold dawn wind sweeps across the dunes, and the silence is broken only by the bleating of camels and the crackle of the fire's embers. Men and women rise together to prepare strong tea and flatbread baked in the ashes, known as kubs. It's the start of another day in a world where every drop of water and every patch of shade matters. During the blazing daylight hours, work is divided among families. The men tend to the herds and travel in search of pasture, while the women prepare food, weave clothing, and keep the tents in order. Temperatures can soar above 50 degrees Celsius, 122 degrees Fahrenheit, and the dry air makes every breath heavy. Life in the desert moves slowly but with purpose. The Bedouins' homes are their tents, called Beit al-Sha'ar, meaning house of hair. They are handmade from woven goat hair and wool. These dark, dense fabrics protect against the scorching heat by day and the bitter cold by night, acting as natural insulation. The tents can be dismantled and carried easily on camels. In just a few hours, an entire family can pack up and move, taking everything they own. The tent floor is covered with colorful rugs. At the center sits a small clay stove used to prepare coffee and tea, symbols of hospitality and respect. No visitor, even a stranger, is ever received without a hot cup in hand. In the desert, even clothing is a survival tool. Men wear long, loose robes called thobes, which protect the skin from the sun while allowing air to circulate. On their heads, they wrap the keffiyeh, a traditional cloth held in place by a black wool cord called the agal, to shield themselves from heat and sandstorms. Women, on the other hand, wear long dresses and veils, often black or brightly colored, adorned with silver jewelry that reflects sunlight and carries symbolic meaning. These garments are not just cultural expressions, they are natural armor against the desert's extremes. Finding water is the greatest challenge of Bedouin life. They can detect the scent of moisture in the sand, read the flight of birds, and follow animal tracks to locate underground springs or small wells. Every oasis discovered is celebrated as a miracle. Water is used with extreme care, first for drinking, then for the animals, and lastly for washing. Children grow up understanding that wasting even a single drop is a serious mistake. Respect for water is almost sacred, and many Bedouins believe it is a divine gift from Allah, a test of wisdom for those who live beneath the burning sun. The Bedouin diet reflects the scarcity of the desert. Goat and camel milk are dietary staples, used to make yogurt, butter, and cheese. Camel, goat, and lamb meat are also common sources of protein. Cub's bread is baked directly on hot sand or heated stones, and rice is often cooked with dried meat or spices. On special occasions, the traditional dish is mansaf, a rich combination of rice, lamb, and fermented yogurt, prepared to honor guests or celebrate weddings. Nothing goes to waste. Every ingredient has value. This resourcefulness keeps tradition alive amid scarcity. When the sun sets, the desert transforms completely. The scorching daytime heat fades, replaced by a biting cold that can plunge below freezing. Above, the night sky bursts into life, glowing with thousands of stars. In this vast silence, Bedouins light their campfires, wrap themselves in thick wool blankets, and take shelter in their tents designed to retain warmth and withstand the cold. They gather around the fire, sharing ancient stories and singing songs of love, courage, and long journeys. The music drifts across the dunes, carried by the haunting sound of the rebob, a traditional string instrument that echoes like the desert wind itself. Bedouin society is organized into clans and tribes. Each group has a leader, called a sheikh, responsible for settling disputes and ensuring justice among members. Loyalty to the tribe is absolute. Marriages, alliances, and even conflicts are decided in collective gatherings, where a person's word carries more weight than any written agreement. Bedouin justice is rooted in ancient oral codes. Disputes are settled through the majlis, a council of elders led by the sheikh. In these meetings, decisions are guided by wisdom and spoken honor rather than written law. Forgiveness is highly valued, but revenge, when deemed necessary, is considered a rightful act to restore balance and preserve honor. Honor is the core of Bedouin life. A man's worth is not measured by wealth, but by his integrity, loyalty, and generosity. Breaking a promise or dishonoring an agreement tarnishes not only one's reputation, but that of the entire tribe, sometimes leading to feuds that last for generations. On the other hand, offering shelter, food, and water to a traveler, even a stranger, is seen as a sacred duty that can forge lifelong bonds. Welcoming a guest in the desert is one of the oldest and most unbreakable Bedouin traditions. It doesn't matter where a traveler comes from, or whether they are friend or foe. Once they cross the threshold of a tent, they are treated as a guest. The host serves bitter coffee, dates, and freshly baked bread, and only after 3 days may the visitor be asked the reason for their journey. This timeless custom is a silent pact of protection in the heart of the desert, a code of survival turned into an act of faith. Most Bedouins are followers of Islam. Even though they live far from cities, they practice their faith with deep devotion. 5 times a day, they turn toward Mecca to pray, guided by the rising and setting of the sun. During Ramadan, they fast from dawn until dusk, enduring the desert's blazing heat without food or water. Faith gives them direction, just as the stars guide their caravans through the night. The Bedouin family structure is strong and far-reaching. Marriages are often arranged to strengthen alliances between tribes. Men and women usually marry young, and the family is the foundation of social life. Women care for the tent, the children, and the preparation of food and textiles, while men focus on herding, hunting, and protecting the tribe. Marriage is viewed as a partnership for survival. Each person plays a vital role in maintaining life in the desert. Though the culture is patriarchal, Bedouin women are silent pillars of strength and wisdom. They master the art of weaving tents, preserving food, and passing down traditions to their children. Many also serve as healers, using herbs, resins, and ancient techniques to treat wounds and illnesses. Their songs and poems carry the memory of generations, stories of love, loss, and courage whispered across the sands. The desert may be quiet, but the Bedouin heart beats with rhythm. Music is woven into their lives, played at celebrations, weddings, and long journeys. The most traditional instrument is the rebab, a single-stringed instrument that produces haunting, soulful melodies. Poetry, too, holds a sacred place. For centuries, Bedouin poets have recited verses about battles, love, and the beauty of the desert. These poems are more than art. They are the living memory of a people whose home has no walls and whose spirit belongs to the endless horizon. Among the Bedouins, education goes far beyond books. From a young age, children learn to ride camels, read animal tracks, and navigate by the stars. Fathers teach them how to hunt and find their way across the dunes, while mothers teach them how to sew, bake bread, and show respect for their elders. With the growth of cities and modern schools, many families now send their children to study, yet most still value the traditional knowledge passed down through generations. The Bedouins do not rely on luck, but on wisdom gathered over centuries. They can predict sandstorms by watching the behavior of their camels, sense wind direction by the feel of it on their skin, and locate water by recognizing the plants that grow in the sand. This deep connection with the desert is what sets them apart from all other peoples. It's as if they can speak to the land itself. For generations, the Bedouins lived independently, moving freely across vast stretches of sand, guided only by the stars and the winds of the desert. But the modern world brought new borders, and with them new challenges. The lines dividing nations and territories changed the way nomads could move. Where once there were only dunes and silence, there are now fences, highways, and restricted zones. The desert, once their boundless home, began to shrink, and the nomadic way of life grew increasingly difficult to sustain. As cities expanded and regional economies developed, many Bedouins were pushed to abandon life in the dunes and settle in permanent villages. Local governments began encouraging the construction of fixed housing and offering urban employment, and many became traders. For some, this change brought benefits, access to schools, medical care, and a safer way of life. But for others, it meant losing part of the freedom that once defined them. Trading the sound of the wind for the noise of the streets was, for many, a shock that still echoes through younger generations. The transition has not been easy. In many regions, Bedouin families now live between two worlds, divided between their nomadic past and their urban present. Some young people, born on the edge of the desert, attend schools in the cities but return to the dunes to help their parents herd animals. This blend of lifestyles has created a new generation, striving to balance tradition and modernity without losing touch with their roots. Yet, the pace of the modern world moves faster than the sands of the desert can follow. Another major challenge is the impact of climate change. Droughts are lasting longer, wells are drying up more frequently, and grazing routes are becoming increasingly scarce. Areas that once offered sparse vegetation have now turned into barren desert. The search for water and food for livestock forces many families to travel even greater distances, while others abandon their nomadic way of life in a struggle to survive. The desert, once their teacher and ally, is becoming an unpredictable adversary. Beyond the climate, technology has also left its mark. Amid the dunes, it's now common to see young Bedouins holding cell phones, connected through networks that reach even the most remote regions. The same people who once followed the stars now navigate by satellites and apps. This transformation has brought undeniable benefits, access to information, education, and digital trade, yet the Bedouin spirit endures. There are still communities that lead camel caravans, crossing dunes guided only by instinct and the sun. In parts of the Middle East and North Africa, these groups preserve ancient rituals, celebrate traditional weddings, and keep alive the art of oral poetry. Others have adapted, finding new ways to live off the desert, offering tourist experiences, sharing their stories with travelers, and teaching how to survive under the blazing heat. What was once purely survival has become a source of income and cultural pride. But some things remain unchanged. Even in the most modern camps, equipped with solar panels and internet, the tent is still the heart of Bedouin life. It's where coffee is brewed, stories are told, and the fire warms the cold nights. It stands as a symbol of continuity amid change, a reminder that while the desert may shift and reshape itself, the spirit of its people remains steadfast. Now, imagine for a moment what it would be like to live as they do, to feel the scorching heat of the day and the biting cold of the night, to walk for hours through endless desert, searching for shade where there are no trees. Would you have the courage to experience that? Share your thoughts in the comments. If this journey through the desert inspired you, leave a like and share this video with someone who needs to witness the strength of this people. Subscribe to the channel to keep exploring the most extreme and fascinating stories on the planet.